taken care of as far as Winnipeg are concerned. Up next, Ghana Speaks. Now, Ghana Speaks said the na nimui I some no a doso na ye behweni name say what is all about. The adapono so you know aka ehwasem beginning a year bare 2 weeks 3 weeks ago. Said the mo amunim ene enioma epiepie e free baby ahodo bebre na ye nemu so edi ho nkomo. Tonight on Ghana Speaks, we bring to our listeners and viewers here and around the world the 5th edition of our ongoing epistles, prepared and released from the United States Central Intelligence Agency, CIA. Maybe I can't kind sakrate ya share that and the 5th edition muna munim. Krate nye Kwaku me na metroe. America fo edwumekui a wo musu nam fom ekuro biara ewu wiase. America fo CIA fo ewo ho. Ghana wo mo ha US embassy wo mo nam ho. No mo nam kuri mu no mo hwe de ekoso ye politics mu nsem baby a. And this report captures some staggering, harrowing accounts of how some high-ranking Ghanaian politicians were allowed to be used by the agency ostensibly to destroy the democratic foundation of this country some years back. Today, we are in the Ghana month, and there is the need to tell the untold story. Every amenemo ka say March, you declare say March a Ghana month. Not just say month na ye March, you know. And then you deka Ghana abakwasem nara. Abakwasem wa ye tete abakwasem wa shisha books mu. Abakwasem wa shisha shelves mu. Ye mpe hwasem kano. Month we ene ye de bossa enkuru no. Enu nti enu ye nso akotam krate. Nyame na metro America for CIA for natural krate. Edin ahodo bebre wom. Ne ye betwa so akaka kre nwie yo. Edin ahodo ewom. Sa ni peyi a wo mo sa nkrate mu a America for edi wo din abehihye hei. Ye sa ni peyi a wo mo ye boapayo. Ma America for ni use wom. Edi two, the first president of this republic, Nesosa, ma otito wirim, ko piepie himfa, ko yare ewo, yare me adene ko to Romania, from Romania, eventually, adene ko to himfa, Guinea, Conakry, and a Kwame Nkrumah, odi wuye. Why nom an America agency, ebo mo pa, emo mudi sa, boni we ti o man we. Me sure so ubi a woni Annan for the past 3 weeks. Wonim edin ahodo. Enti se wunya hu ya enne no to bo ase na Ghana Speaks min church min reading ne mbobodin bi na hu de eko. Enti fra wunya bi all the way connecting from western region all the way to upper east and beyond and across the global world on the super highway na 2 TVGH ubenya uko YouTube and so type it, the Seed Show ubenya live feed and on the way we said the nyoma AC echo. Now I read, and today's title of the epistles no say the honest nest. On an October day in 1961, after closing hours, several people came together in one of the shops near the railway station in Lome. When they came to the door of the shop, they looked around them nervously. Everything went on as in a classical detective story. There was a special knock on the door, the password, and even several masks. However, no mask could conceal from the citizens of Lome the two familiar figures of Togo's ministers of internal affairs, Theophile Mali and Commissioner of Police of the city of Lomé, C. Decon, it was more difficult to identify the man with typical Anglo-Saxon features. But the name of Leonard Decimus meant absolutely nothing to anyone who did not know that it was an alias of George Davis, representative of one of the most powerful Western intelligence service. It was this man who declared the meeting of the conspirators open. Keep the names all written somewhere. Gbedema briefed the participants on that clandestine meeting on the situation in Ghana. He said, among other things, that in Accra, Kumasi, Takoradi, and other cities, especially in the north of the country, there are persons dissatisfied with Nkrumah's socialism and prepared to take every decisive step against it. In this way, the Americans thought to remove Gbedema's rival at the last moment. Happy days had begun for Gbedema. The British began to show more interest in their, quote, graduate, unquote, hatching plans similar to the American ones, with the only difference that London was preparing Busia for the role of the future dictator, while Gbedema was to be used for the cloak and dagger and then put on trial as an assassin. Thus, American dollars and British pounds sterling started flowing with renewed force into Gbedema's pocket. He opened personal accounts in several banks in Geneva, Zurich, and Basel. He bought a villa in Nice for one of his mistresses, Dosia Casey, and occasionally visited her there. The lust for money in Gbedema took the upper hand over fear or qualms of conscience. Putting with one hand the pound sterling and with the other the American dollars into his pocket to pay the service of the terrorists and buy weapons for them, he mated our superiors banknotes for various other service, living in hard currency in his own bank account. By the summer of 1962, the conspirators managed to complete a big part of their work. It was reported from Accra that everything was ready for the assassination of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. K. Decken, Lomé's police commissioner, early that year shipped over the border a large consignment of leaflets, weapons, and explosives. Several hundred plastic bombs were bought in Paris and shipped over to Lomé. Gbedema's cousin, Agyapong, and a real military depot in his house in Lomé, which could probably compete in size with the national arsenals of Togo. While visiting Hamburg in June 1962, Gbedema received 20,000 Ghanaian pounds from an American representative and another 50,000 from London. Later on, the U.S. ambassador in Lomé gave him another 50,000 as well as a special quote manual on the organization of coup d'etat as well as weapons. Out of the 120,000 pounds, Gbedema paid 5,000 to the Ghanaian exile Salifu Imoru, a participant of the plot. Did you hear that? Salifu Imoru, Mokaino. Okay. Yankoswe. And that he did only, he did only because it was in the house of Imoru in Lomé, the address of which is BP 2020, that the above mentioned George Davis had lived, and who was not supposed to have even the remotest suspicions that Gbedema was pocketing the money given to him. The attempt on Nkrumah's life was fixed for August 1st during the village of Kulungugu on the border with the Upper Volta. Last week, we said about Kulungugu connection. Oko Kulungugu no. Ye na obi anim sa history ne say Kulungugu ho no mo ye attempt say enti ombe so mo wie Kwame Nkrumah kra ena buke ni edem abofrey boom exploded. Kulungugu connection na me yi nioma akire mo no. It is common knowledge that the assassins fired and missed. They fired and missed. The arrest that followed dealt a heavy blow to Gbedeme's organization, although at that time very few people knew that it was Gbedema himself who was in the center of the conspiracy. Monday, with a conspiracy who masterminded and operated with the U.S. intelligence agency to oust the first president of this republic, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Later, said Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, yare if you do we and an cancer. A cancer ban in Nipidiemo. Kona Kokin Kai, the history also surrounding the demise of the legend Bob Marley. Bob Marley should be on us or the cancer do the we. Now, Mamini footage being shown. This was the time when Dr. Osajefo Kwame Nkrumah went to United Nations. Now, on the United Nations for Ekodi Nkomo. Nkomo ben on Mukodi. Sa Nkomo on Mukodi. United Nations for Mudi ABB. United Nations for a bias woman wins asem no. United Nations for a yomese asemwa Dr. Kwame Nkrumah Ekano. And for so be on na supem. Ne yenhwe kwan a yede we befa so ana ene the western powers akɔhye Congo so atori Congo for asye wonom akɔhye Congo so etu ekronumu enyapade all the mineral deposit wo matuni na asset ene the western world etimi e the aircraft ewura Congo asase ni mu o ewura ho no metu gold diamond ox bauxite all everything cobalt come say Congo krokito away. Congo ekuta cobalt 50% of cobalt, which is a total mineral deposit of the global resource. What it means that Congo ebetimi ashe the world when it comes to some mineral resource way. Now there near the cobalt here aircraft engine including mobile phones way. Ninyoma bibre, printers, all the electronic gadgets, cobalt near there. So look at the size of Congo. Nashedomo population. Are you therefore telling me, say, inti Shenyomo mutu gold, diamond, bauxite, ore, zinc, cobalt, anything. Inti so mutu me produce 50% of the global resource of cobalt and kwa. That for me, it's enough to take, and no taking care of the African continent, nevertheless to talk about themselves. So why Congo is poor? Today, the Western powers are there in the United Nations, talking rubbish, talking nonsense. The last week, Mekachra said, United Nations naga so si hon, oh here reforms oh. And the one who said Russia, Ukraine, so the Western world are talking. I don't endorse Russia going to war in Ukraine. But the hypocrisy on this global, look, it is time the world order must be rewritten. Oh yes. Kwame Nkrumah ko United Nations wo ekodi nkomo tie womo de nasem ye bibi ana. Womo de nasem eka bibi womo amfanya hwe. Take a listen to him, what he told them when he visited the UN.
Mr. President and distinguished delegates, what we need in the Congo is not a solution, that is a compromise. Mr. President and distinguished delegates, what we need in the Congo is not a solution, that is a compromise or seeks to reconcile the divergent views between East and West. What we want is a solution acceptable to the Congolese people and which ensures peace and stability in Africa and thus excludes the Cold War from the continent. As I have said many times before, we in Africa have a vested interest in peace. What is taking place in the Congo today could lead to a serious conflagration which would set us all ablaze and spare no one.
United Nations Ghana mans ye de niam e bremo pa zono okoka obi se o mo de adwuma o man fa nya adwuma ene hwede e koso Congo me wi asade mi kira ni nipa o mo ye nya atwo. I'm a plain person, say it as it is ye wie because be look enipa asase so Nyankopon de ye bae ye wona we are numbered o number no so a de Onyankopon de ma bia ne number no so a esese wokọ na ukokọ kire Onyankopon se de me ba metumi ye ni enti asase so no mom ye hwehwe ye nkwaje ho edwuma ne ye nye ne yie ne ye mfa ne kore so ne ye nim untimi nya ne pepepe mom na mom ma ne kore no no ti unkontompo no na brabasem boni di boni ye nya boni di wohu Congo ene isi ho za no ye tu Congo asasini mu na ya se no this same western powers, this western oligarchy wo ma say Congo kro no hwe Libya kro Libya beautiful kro ti say Libya Gaddafi dimun kakra e de ikonenim America busuafo wo makọ CIA fo no a no mkokum Gaddafi ya say kro no ene Libya enye kro bio the same America fo yawo koto she Saddam Hussein so womo sa 5-star general no ene wewo no Colin Powell any American soldier ni kese ba ko a ono so no ye general Norman Schwarzkopf no omne hwan George Bush Norman Schwarzkopf on wodi say ekunenim koto she Iraq so etorikro yase they invaded Iraq Toromase we ye kum leader no eka ho enepu a omugya no mko maybe omosesa oyel ni na de kogu omkuru omhwato obi anka so the world kept quiet. The same western powers assassinated the president Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. The world kept quiet obi anka so and no one kasa no makọ form pepe ya be the declassified report eninie. Somebody should ask the US embassy here in Accra, what justification Ben Amwo to do this to us? And the ones there, one of the world superpower, or no so no, America say, hey, hello, wait a minute, no man, you can't do this. Yenemo be konto kwa, yenemo be say, well, and you. Now Russia, waitress say Russia, no wa prepare no ye for a very long time. Boni America for di we ase ha no. Na ni na no ne kase na no de bia meka bone kese o medie tie wiase about the transportation of tens and thousands of Africans. The transport do called the Caribbeans, Europe, America. Yankwa den enkwasi edwuma. Enkwasum ti say ye kum thousands of black people. Black so ye kum dodo na ase de betumi. Dodo na ye kum ye na. Ena de ye ni say yesansu koja thousands edu omugo Atlantic Ocean nim kwa just like ye waste ye kwa thousands of Africans who Atlantic Ocean ye kotu ye gumu just like that. And no more ma to din won say Bermuda wo. Ene African Americans here what America still ye nya fa ahudie o. The blacks in America still don't have any diabeya. You need control o. Even blacks in America, blacks who were born in American soil do not have freedom. As I speak, the blacks in America do not have a land of their own. I said what? A land of their own. After how many years of their cotton cultivation, plantain cultivation, and many other slavery jobs, blacks in America do not have a land of their own. And the US government should come and tell the world, when are they going to give us that freedom? Blacks all over the whole of the African continent have not been given reparation in the United Nations. Yet Ghana, a member of the UN Security Council, the crime against the genocide against humanity, the worst crime ever in the history, which has really touched the consciousness of the world, is to subject a fellow human being to such a horrendous treatment and a torture. In today's civilization in America, blacks still. Now America has a freedom of all. What must say fundamental rights here? Who told you? Nanche blacks are the nakedness of the law in America. Near the black atuho, near tiane konso, ni wewu. So, kwa here blacks are ye kumomoho at the full glare of the US offense authorities. Anna, oh, sir, Putin echo Russia, America every day. The Western powers are all over, captured the international wires, doing their press conferences upon press conferences, lifting sanctions, imposing sanctions, this. The world was quiet when the United States, Ekura, Ekokoto, Edi Nagasaki, Eko Ohaumu, Edi Hiroshima, Eko Ohaumu. The world was quiet. Obiya amfa sanction ama America so. No. In Nagasaki, an intelligence has said the America to drop atomic bomb at Nagasaki and Hiroshima was not just because it was like a proxy war. They were just looking, they were baiting the Russians to come in. And one no. Neko reason. Obiya nkahwe anchemu mukum nipa ewo ho. Yeah, quiet. America kotoshia su yekum wine Saddam Hussein. The world was quiet. Gaddafi otini baby o Africa cheja ya na wafaka na wabansra hwe e wa ha say na ji wa man kakra na ekọ baby yekunu kwa obiya nkahwe. Great. Tonight I feel ye be diagro ni ye papa. Well, me guest ba ko ontimi emma because ye ka say no ho akoka baby a che say enye too good at all. But of course, you better try to say be reason why human is needing komo kakra. Paul Conley, Paul Boating, a security and intelligence analyst. You better touch base with him on the phone. No man, some perspectives. Baby, Kwaku, you know. Unfortunately, in soon carnation home and the car crano. When your problem, inti, and ya there Paul betting me abe. And come on, my Monday and then better touch base. Our studio as and then also your Fritz Moses, a research analyst, Institute for Energy Security. Also, Moses, one thing. Great. I hope to be here. Wonderful. Great. You better touch it base pretty shortly with Paul Boatin. Now my open comment as far as the Russian Ukraine war no concern. Now yashe exactly how the issues are looking like. So yen raise Paul Emra Homana so quickly now. Yen for 1 or 2 questions be into Homana. But in the meantime, I should say we are following up on multiple developing stories all panning on our radar. We are following up on a high-profile Ghanaian civil servant who served this country diligently, died a couple of years ago. Intelligence gathering, including police report, suggests his will was altered. Meanwhile, family believe murder was the case. Yeah, follow BB. Na sa story a ye follow yi. Penny or ye penny power me mu ha. Me money din answer ye story ne beba. But what it is that o penny ebri a make say we na ebusuafo no gidi say obi na ehye de kun no. Ne will or tro ni ne japade na so enipa bi a che will no. O ma che ne japade no. Eye nsem enti ebri eba enche kra na yebeba ababa bie sa story no eno ne friend said the seat investigate near the sa story na ababa to no we say the nyoma esito mame kwa homa so quickly na me Paul Boatin, security and intelligence analyst and touchy base near said the nyoma AC air call on the side. Paul memo adwon what saying
the way I
great. By the way, Meka say yeah sorry pa say with or how we me did say before close of the night na yenya solution to situation where baby a car no Kwaku we see. Great. And I hope say you are safe wherever you are.
Yes, but since you are crowd there, they are called baby safe.
Great one. All right, we needed to establish this as far as the listeners and viewers here concerned. Now, Paul, on Monday, you bet Jibre no be studio ha because you see Russian-Ukraine war, you remove impacts that it would have on the global markets and never trickle down to Africa and a baby. I stand to be correct and say today is day 12. The world is shaking, rumbling, and we'll share the wreckage and the debris, all shaking together as far as Ukraine is concerned. I must say, Ukraine in the shortest possible time will be left with nothing but a ghost town. Great. Give us the genesis of this war. Ehinfa any free Russia tini baby Ukraine tini baby pa any tia na say Russia dini nemu sa hwe ya me ko Olympics no and one Jinping ekoko di nkomo intelligence we gathering say wo mu kodi some secrets in Komobia and the world is not privy to. However, obaya and check any who say Russia a movie ne heavy artilleries. Umudi ekoko invade Ukraine say the global stage emu aye bija pa. My genesis to how this whole thing started.
Me shasia.
Yeah.
Like you said, yeah, probably 200 years back.
Okay. First say free baby aye benyanti asene kakra. We need to establish the base.
Me the best shasia free after the collapse of
USSR.
Cold War, USSR.
Great.
In 1919.
Okay.
And so, Tamana Cold War was on. Now, we are saying, fancy war bipolar, a tumia casemi,
yeah.
Eastern Bloc and Western Bloc. Western Bloc, no, yeah, US phone leading. If Europe, Ukraine, Oceana, Germany, Ukraine, Chemi, Never East Germany, Honana, Eura Putin, or Dini Juma Pass, Stasi spy and KGB agent. Ain't you know, a bra, America 4 year, or multiple collapse, USSR. In fact, any might be break also. I shall see if we Reagan bless. I almost said that man, Russia phony this scholarship. I go back to on I think they were 17.
17.
Almost said that by USA, now, almost share that treaty on to say Arabian kings.
Yeah.
And in a moment, one more system, ideology. until gradually no mobile.
Sena Gorbachev Kraso can former Russian a.
I na make a transfer no account.
That's right.
Gorbachev, Mikhail Gorbachev. I need to know into me might be one waka North America. And you know, on any group on the buy, and almost a Saturday, or one quasum, to gradually, no, almost a sign I'm near my head. I could do time. And you might be BCC and Sana USSR, ego. But I'm Sunday, big no. Now, issues are Cassiam and San Ebio. Tamana Cold War was one. Now, US 4 a day, Mr. B, ballistic Mr. B, I friend Jupiter, ABC Italy, Anaba Consul taking. Enti eno na ma Soviet for no so yes say all the beko Cuba. Enti tema na Esnowa e wo so no. Mu say 1960 kra obane Cuba products ni adi na America for en patronize on bibia. Ansa na Kennedy ba on beto aba obetu no. The Kennedy ba ye no ana assembly ba ye kesi nti no ye frame bi say Cuba missile crisis. Missiles na wo mu de ko na kwa ye nsem bibla 1962 nanka de konkre be wiase ana omutin ye anes ntino agreement be break also and I'm sad after the collapse of Soviet Union no USSR no agreement be break de ekoso and see anwa say mini di ma wo hiem wo so ni di ma me hiem if say wiase no sa abre ni nyina no two powers e can be say hegemony just wo region na wo tumi wo influence wo other countries no and as our friends na salajo nti na some abeka bia no sometimes wo mutie esan so ye business wo ye weapons no ade ma wa ni nyina wo di nyeska nti no US for no de omo fin say USSR lebu nti Russia for no said wo mon country nti nkron kitenkete a ne ka ho ni nyina omo fa akwan bi so epese omo do omo pa omo group we from NATO. In fact, America for establishing any Western powers and establishing NATO because of fear. Now, almost to say Russia, the Europeans, because almost Russia fitted a year USSR for. And the about USSR and countries in Kitina and Nkrumah, Estonia, Lithuania, name them, Omunino, Omapa Quambi so no the idea. Ogomaba Europe, on Pese. Omunina so abe joining your friends say NATO. Now, almost per se Ukraine a baby. Now, Ukraine ba na to say Western powers no enya akwanya ban Russia aboboa no do bi say Ukraine and Kasano or powerful dada. Tema na USSR no ho no. In fact, warheads, nuclear warheads ni ade ni nyina no esisi baabi a Ukraine for won na na ewo. Tema USSR no gu ye no one nuclear weapons no bebre no Russia for toy. In fact, negotiation cost no de ma. But still a one ye threat. Nti Russia for na mu say one ma Ukraine for no kwan. Na one mutumi ko join NATO pa. Na kire say any omo wie ye na ba. Nti ene kwan bia so. Anya de a one be pene mo ma ye de. Oma mo akọ join NATO. Nti 2014 no omo sha ase ma one nkofo no separatists bi no more Crimea near the Ekeka or Mo. Near ten say, your western part of Ukraine, no, any Russia for share border. No, go now on about 60% here, can Russia, be to say Russia for now. Ain't you know, almost to Omacasa, so almost to Omonia Massy. Ain't you take advantage, a remu, ama Crimea no, ebe ye, say no. International community recognize it about Russia for the Omo recognize and say country, Omo no Mudijuma. And I was saying, ama Donetsk for no, any Luhansk for no, almost no separatists via but Russia for not taking advantage. But so more, occupied that those areas, no, Donbass Republic, you know, a slow hormone or Mujinina. Now say no, who say Ukraine for no pese or Moko joining it to the beer, or Mutimi, a Wulema, Momonko for back. No, my best system. Let us communicate be the idea. No, assembly. Man, first presidents are who will be able to maybe a pro Russians and they do see a pro European Union as a Western bloc. And to say, same to Canada, the two Union say Russia force or more plain. I'm an call for no Ukraine for no join European Union. Mama de Jana Bonting. I'm America for. I'm a tone show so that twins. And you know, Omo plants nyinaa ne say eye Chernobyl ho ba bia na nuclear plant no wo no say omo activating from the national grid. Omo ji afa ho aba Naipa river ho no no abesi aseo belita pa ho no nyinaa abesi Crimea ho saa no mo ye mo anye so ma che animu mienu o.
Sure.
No ma occupy the other side no ma ja eastern side of Kiev no e dia ma European no e ba ne saa na che so mo timi pushi in case that actually NATO for private near BCD na cross river ne ma e me ben omo na omo to me sa betimi aba Moscow abeha and one Russia for you.
Now, Paul, I'll have maybe loads of questions, but for the purposes of your needs, remember bear 3 questions we and then Monday we'll look into all those questions because the rest of us here in Ghana yenya ye honti ase dia ekosu wi ase and this global world can no nice obi ni obi ya there and phobia ho but ne Russia any ekrobi ye me Ghana mpo kunto kwa Ghana we must be bothered for the very reasons ya be global world. Question maybe from the readings and intelligence gathering, is the war pointing at decapitation of the Ukrainian government or is just about occupation? How are you reading it?
Near me who say for now no the actual occupation and no more. Even though initially na intelligence will be because on person we na mo pamo aban no but ono no it says no saban no kura baka say ono na kan oboa obe adopt non-aligned policy Russia for be jantopan but baby o ma plan so on be gene de o mu njai on be jiwo say no mo yen so mo be bomb baby a facilities ni wo nyina o mu say da achi anhwe nkofo no ebesan e dia ha omo no o mu be say ni nyina nsa na o mo boajo.
Now earlier now we'll make it points but let me frame it in a question there. Some considerable years back Russia planted its nuclear warheads in Cuba. The Americans warned Cuba to get rid of it or risk to face a catastrophic attack. The United States said this and the world kept quiet. In the same instances I bring you here closer, say, Russia is beginning to talk almost if not the same language this time around. Looking at the proximity of Ukraine, Russia, and then Ukraine, by force member of NATO, Russia feels much more threatened, if that is it. Dientina, NATO, Tintina or Pese, or ma Ukraine, ebe ne darling boy, and will not want to listen to Russia. Edru Nedia no so dia wo Cuba no, na America 4 years did it. And the world was quiet. Isn't this a double standard hypocrisy?
What kind of saying if you say powers in you be any mlasso international law no more fine juma. Intinia mo ye say or no between as an influencer only on fahu or feature the crowd the beba hono to German and no afa into more try some back person Russia for pay akwa powers. But one man can say who say one analysis on my own say nim no ye mistake you who German asem obeto omo no omo mpe anything omo techira omo kekan omo ntimi wura mu enti no enya de a omo betimi aye bibia senya o kan double standard no ho ana o hwewi ase ntokwa nyina beba pa America fo ana de ntokwa ne ba about 80% omo ye say omo adopt policy bi a friend no say preemptive strike say nipa no baabi a betimi akọ defend ho enti George Bush can say the best way to defend is to attack into what or say Saddam Hussein a nuclear weapon or brand sabi apetition bi nkofo bi hwewura mu na omko say kuro ni na Afghanistan sa no mu ye ya feature ha Libya ba be say ho nyina ewiase ye din obi ankasa so Vietnam omko ho Laos omko ho countries bebre just almost say what ewiase ye din na Russia for no I had to say almost pa no maka mudu ya me no maka tron baby nti na wi aso fin say omo nka hwe if say USSR but eye wura Putin no wa ben wo sa edwumadie no nti wo say no wa ngina ho anye na omo legacy na antena ho a NATO for ni America for no on person conquer wiase. They don't accept to say we are in multipolar world. Western powers and we do come on things we are seeing now your media. It is open your pan koji Ukraine ho dia. No more be Moscow dia. Moscow din sem kunu bia obeto aba board we say obeto aba abo Washington ho no masum dada. But what they would jira won pon no. So won say na etie. Enu nti no mpɛ so ɔmo ya to ɔmo nya Ukraine dia ɔmo de nneɛma ahodoɔ kɔ akogu hɔ a ɛne Moscow wɔyɛ no ho hwee yeye ɛba ne saa ne tumi a ɔwɔ ne nyinaa no so ɔpɛ so ɔyɛ nuclear arms bi o biribi ɔpɛ so ɔyɛ ɔntumi nyɛ ɔmo kɔ akɔsɛɛ no ɛnu nti na ɔmo nso ani abere sɛ ɔmo mpere ne ma so sɛ ɔmo ma ne ba so pɛ ɔmo awie Russia fo ɔmo ntumi nyɛ nneɛma papa biara bio nti ɛnu nti na aba ne saa no na nya de a Russia fo bɛpene ana ne omo ye no nso no ama China fo nso anya kokuduro a omo nso Taiwan ho nso on pese enche kra obeto omo nka ho
ye be ba very explosive one and we are keeping an eye on this one now
entini we no mo ye no aye power play international influence international politics and it here entino Russia fo no say sa regional hegemony no influence Asia fo nso de nsa enti say no ubu samia we are any unipolar world view, any to me back when US, I have multipolar world that you want Russia, you want US and Western allies, and then China. Say, I know you want through once one, India for once over, Pakistan for once over. And you know, saying we are saying considering multipolar world that any one influence and everything I say we are saying I and you titensem no Soviet Union benya influence ma omo policies ni niam bebre Nkrumah bebre be adopt ma omo nso ase Western powers no interest wo e bia region bia omo so person exert omo what do you call influence tisa na ebeko.
Great. Paul, my mema question way now try to interpret the mind of, because it's one of the very hardest thing as the Western intelligence agencies would want to crack to understand the mindset of Putin. It's been one of the hardest things to do, how to go inside out of Putin's mind. However, it's also becoming a bit soft that intelligence analysts like yourself are able to interpret some of his language. And here I give you one. Try to make sense out of it and interpret it to us. Now, as you try to make a sense out of it, I don't know if this is a direct threat to the global world. Putin said, and I quote, top officials in leading NATO countries have allowed themselves to make aggressive comments about our country. Therefore, I hereby order the Minister of Defense and the Chief of the General Staff to place the Russian Army Deterrence Force on combat alert, unquote. What do you make of this?
International politics. Anna, omen bia wo nuclear weapon no serve as a deterrent. Enuntina powers are almost been omonko. Enuntina Cuba Missile Crisis no entimi anye yesa no. Enuntina Pakistan and India omo henhama no monde omo inside the apple. In fact, I had to say league bi to say say Ghana ha na say it is a slogan crab will be a person ko join bi. Enti sana I know so tie. And into a maybe a person because could join India who will influence some international launch. Region now, their friend hegemony in a besha one sem. And to be a yensim who catches with diagram press a button. We your cancer no about Western powers new and ya the obey but what the who no
Paul, Komu Kakra, it sounds quite technical and more militarized. Dear na Putin pesa or catching we are say because here nuclear is mentioned here.
Your person catcher on say. Medical case earlier no answer na Putin by yes anyam. No ayen assessment in risk assessment na aye economic factors in na no say amanfo akọ COVID mu aba into yes oil price no be cost low. Sure. Fa no ho into aye ne niam ni nyina wie no say NATO fo no nyina akra campum so mbeba no so omu ntime no. If you say NATO for no, a frefre kobo. Omuni standby army. If Germany family, France family, many sure say Germany the BB Bakoda because Omuni Putin no behind the scenes no a BB oho. Into what who say need to phone into me yeshe. Eti America phone you on best on the near Mababa. And I you against all the near Mababa. Baby out the Befabano or Bebrock or best say her plans. Need to weigh your warning or watch or say still no or said to me no. Into wood for banos or will quite be as say or be press a button no. Into what catch or say, man, no near Woye Nijai, a warning or day mount. But say the do us or better dear. Men yes, you are so bad because when I didn't so better, you are see any pay be wound. Yen I yen so ain't in cry. If you cry in yen survival, into any other better. But a warning or day mount or trans or one kais will be. Send your moods will be. Into your terms are or moon I
see. Putin and Adrian should I never pass out.
Oh, they are beyond to. Near was here, tears and say, and you are not going to take a decision.
Yeah.
Or by some fois, or more can a womb. Oh, Baba talk for no more, or more can a womb. No Putin in a leader, I say, or dinner new mamba. But you say Russia for no, almost a 70 say US for no near dinner. Into the beer, and I say, I consider one say paranoid state.
So who is holding the codes?
I say in there. Russia for now.
What was that in the case of America? We are quickly the Americans rushed to have the codes out of events saying Trump because, well, funny suspicion of that he may try to, even at a point, going to the Capitol Hill to do signing a subversion of the American events saying power into a coup ne Sanyo. Why do you think the world gets so scared when nuclear warheads, nuclear armaments, start coming into play? And this showdown, they get scared. But at the same time, it also begs the question, DNT and manufacturers for what? Paul?
Factors and endorsement, but the main issue here is so being to me will be a so be answered almost yes or more baby putting a catcher and some movie woodrow mobile met trouble and we are back on or the born home buying. And I could say a level be a woodra a prestige. Just say, oh, your mind or some boy be as will be a boo who was car because they are this kind area and also come home. Anna obese one man, who share pygmy states now. Almost small states are of Ubiti North Korea say. Offense one on Nankasa, why outcast. Na I feel so we are a crap on any on tran baby no one and 1 year in Yama. Into one who say what they are born home buying because I did yes, I did. Who Israel say ya, baby or one. I just say office at time for can who is here. Even though public no I'm admit say could be bench or movie. Into one or be sano. Na mama ya time for a motran motion and must say won't slow or ye be a won't slow and who be a friend if it's a way no a catcher say eh moya met two into be a baby na what and say yeah no the year at the if you to me the bomb who buying send your baby will be into my imagery in same who one I just went to know me nuclear weapons.
Now, Paul, maybe this is our last question. We now a few rest. There is a standoff between America and China, and the middle ground is Taiwan. It does appear Australia is trying to give a helping hand, as it does in alliance history. How is this going to pan out on the global stage in the coming days, weeks, months, possible years?
And send your whole history to you know. I China for budget. So Australia there, and now our cooperation be a friend of Five Eyes.
Yeah.
Intelligent cooperation, US, UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. And you know, near US could be an almost a Western or India, block India. Any New Zealand, on the core US affair. And when it comes to intelligence and so on, New Zealand for it to me China for power, Australia for.
Yeah.
And in a honor, I China for say, one new papa. But when the Taiwan need South Spirit need where they are China for budget. If you say 7 years banging, okay, military spending China for any near more year. Nina say almost original hegemony, no send American, almost Palma bring for US for M50 in some Asia. MS Yenny Yasa dear. Person almost say a hands ye will influence or into the American influence or Latin America and Northern America. And for one tap by Ma Asia. Japan are the party Paco. Now, North Korea, dear, you be kind to my bano. If you will be now begins to move higher, bachelor say yes, you too. And one China for person.
Since here, I can say North Korea, it to me every now and then, or testy, nay, missiles. And reports on such as say, with me, are constructed ICBU. So then it means or a threat to the Western world, correct? Obetimi atna ne ho kanenwa yemfenko si ha na I am much closer to launch. Sisi ano no betimi atna North Korea ho and can destroy one American major city, correct? North Korea threat.
Oh yes, I did no crash. Oh yes, I did not. And I make a choice so I don't know a pygmy state.
Yeah.
And I was signing a friend of Pariah, no, what just said, or no, you state to be a Nkrumah democracy in Yeduma, power nation in some. I know no human right to someone
authoritarian or your pay.
And you have no fan of crowd, then buy will be the idea. Who's who couldn't any more cabinet, Kuno cabinet, and no one said, or no, on the sun, so I be obeku money and India. Ain't in your pen or ye. And I say, we are see upon to an also shame fan or Agyapong. I mean, Yamsika, I mean, fan told me, and we'll find you the way up on the air. Wow, Pesa Obano, no make me as watcher. If you say, who say, Hono, omni South of Hono, a bosh, you know, yes, South Korean. Anna, South Korean, who show more, ammonia more, even no more military no crano, a US for do ya.
Say, Chrono, North and South America, for Anna Cocoyami, Cochi.
I know, almost per se, almost yes, I know, putting some person making sure, say, almost prema. US former ASI many because one more experience across Asia hon. Ain't no more yes, ain't no North Korea there or no retard on in it. Or no dear or no ten baby name who bar any or the bishop. Tisan on why and
oh, sir, Donald Trump ever sitting during the tenure in office. Yeah. Give us a bit of, why the world superpower United States and so to me call North Korea I say. What was that significant arrangement?
Say we are saying, we superpower. Idea our person will share and our yen say, Omasum Drieba. Therefore, will be our fin say, or by Hawagan, or Fakwa Biso, Nanka, Ubetimia. Only a transit dada, and only an Indian, I bet Jeffrey, and some of our Jeffrey. I knew dear,
or the Fed.
Or the Fed, I won't win history until I had the or better. And oh, yeah, yes, and a the accord, Yanya, Yamesia, a Yamayan call for visit Yanya exchange program, was so on pay. We American, you call or several Necra, Camless also, and Pensing whom be and he was a catch up. It is out of the watch, or no, the only entertaining any Western powers. No, or no, you cry.
Now, may Vince, another question, then last one, Putin has said that NATO, adding nations to the alliance, that includes countries that border Russia, is seen as a significant threat to his country's interest and security. Is this a legitimate call?
Countries
yeah.
Belarus, no, Italian for friend Belarusiano. Almost one I to say, Omni way for near fine pa. And into Sha Chernobyl Honomono. Russia from the Omtus maybe Akofa Honomosa, back here for Nabidu, Bovari Honomo, and son about Nepa River Honosardin.
Yeah.
Tino. Send you almost same Kwan or my country, dear, or my own say, almost the Bibiane, Russia for. Now, countries now cannot have Estonia, Lithuania, no money, I didn't Latvia for no near Dominion, I imagine say, almost dear Sabi Russia for no, almost and only idea on CCA. And you know, show man never Warsaw Park, na. I just saw my Russia for no, but Russia no and fan home. When she kick crowd going in your and when you say near man, and Muslim man, is a bear affected by CCA crown. A year forecast and call 4 year no crown and say Russia for no crown. I want and say 1 man ya oil price no a better $300 I ain't check. A banner sabi and here for near who betray.
Remember what we ended up with the oil no, and it impact in all of these discussions. We are looking also primarily the impacts this whole thing is going to have on the global markets, trickling down to Africa. Yes, you can be new. Yeah, Paul, do you sense? You sense, and again, do you figure Third World War is imminent?
David.
Okay.
David, many sir.
Okay.
Many.
Great.
And you know, make a chance say nuclear powers, no, a nuclear weapon, a deterrent, into a year's lawyer, and yadia movie abe press a button. For now, dear, I don't see Third World War coming.
Okay.
Because near Russia, for person we are and say Western powers, ya bremo, mumpem baby internet, mamma meme, buano. Most beba dia mes se baby a mobe boom buchiano. Mobeba na I afro ni atechen oko. Muntimi nyehwe. Most mobe yeso a mesan be bubuno. Enti wo be chekru no mienu. Baby bia ofin so betimi ayi bibia no. So oni wom na nyina na nete. Obe se ho nyina.
But don't you also sense from the intelligence gatherings there, this is an act of provocation and it can lead into something push and pull. Let's fight.
Provocation on which part?
On the part of the Western powers, you know, Air Force is still to have Ukraine on the alliance radar.
Yeah, and Untina Putin and he talks on Bekoso. Western powers need jai Ukraine pushy on now some wherever. And I was say Ukraine for Nanka Sansono, Sabi, almost who said, Okunya Air Queen, your friend Western powers, your mama. Even though be a real Mwabeshe Ukraine for entire or more condia, but Omono, I had to was saying, and there was one man to one once I said, and Topano and Yadia betting age now, because went to me Russia for any one monk. Na fe omu jai na catch and say, ye name Kubio. Na omo adopt sa non-allied policy, no more tom baby say, Sweden no more name, Finland no more tom baby. So be uncle count to quite. Yana sa some dear weber. But say Russia big idea, and yet there will jai. And ya do be jai.
Now, quickly, Emsa, I do escape you there. Share a Warsaw Pact, which was a military alliance and a balance of power. No, America, for my respect, is our Warsaw, pact.
Oh, say good.
Okay.
USSR good ya and good ya.
Okay.
But Tema na a wana USSR na a powerful na Ukraine winning now. In fact, Sabeno or Maya na US full strong pie Ukraine for no. You say Ukraine one and then near many now. And near my papa na. In fact, woman or more winning dear no more yes, I near my doing na. But USSR collapse, you know, and Russia for no toss are near many. This is Ukraine for nation enemy. Almost technology needed, but almost shared enemy. Into almost sites near ma NATO for na plans on the Baba yet a missile defense system no one. What not Russia for person almost 7.
Do you from your intelligence lenses, is it like America Pesoyena or building a nuclear plant? Apart from the nuclear power, no, nuclear facilities with Ukraine that can pose threats to Russia?
Our main objective, because he say no, take if one woman yet and beyond the surface.
Yeah.
Once a first and uncle was a Jupiter a ballistic missiles and Italy and Turkey. And I say take if one Putin and I say almost boom. And you know, so when Ukraine nanka bebwa nanka timia mama control Moscow and so no enya dia Russia for bepen and into na man yes but be back because enya dia be back down because enya do be say enkofo no be cause because they say no o ma test them on side Putin no nya sabe bayira abro wadwo
so sanctions are there to Nigeria, including the Russian oligarchs how is it going to affect them? Is it just on the surface? Is it scratches on the surface and has a strong impact in the making?
No, IS assessment in every. And I say, no, or cancer oil, no oil, be 300. One a best offer. Or castle or set pipe, gas pipelines, or winning, I hear for the best offer. Germany for you for best offer.
So is there because Wakati Germany, if you're Nord Stream pipeline closed, send a review after millions of dollars.
And Western powers, no woman say be do baby, no sign men. Now Putin no man is and sign net no obey almost this are sanctions in the North Korea to man is sanctions on the baby.
Yeah.
And sir, states now, almost far and France democracy in Shadan Yadumana, almost 2 on the almost any man in Fawam home. Because he ain't never high. See the answer, and your name cost fire to Ghana, yes. So, and your Ghana phone be soon, we are seeing Nebisu. And only idea was a woman who said, "Oh my, oh my, so you put in also and final, a mum near best offer." And only was for movie.
Paul, you do be see her and no Monday a bet twice because you see a ma Ghana Funa a hoodia air sense, and then I bear a global world. Can no be or more yana and fire by ne carbomu. Ne one wants to see her and say, "Would they be no, walk us and a Ghana for Yensu best of all." Give us an impact this war, if not ending anytime soon. The impact is going to have on us, and even if no care is taken, it can cripple or grill our economy.
Share a man to an additional cry, no Musia dear war, Ukraine. This all my this year, a buy car born, I be a hole.
That's correct.
Come school be a next 2 years, 3 years. I won't buy the neighbor Ghana. They say a Congo. Etos of Ghana for the one ID Jaco Ukraine. Ukraine for no see and phobia ever in Yanisania, then you baby omnum soprano, and any now saw a day a bika if it's a do one on by man or move to a man. Yet the fan won't near me so bounce and no cry and Nasa no cry. If you ask baby, and one more tongue, this our fan would be any idea, and I'm to quality. Ebe kosro ama ye nyina ye ho akyere say okota dia obi so akoto banche free nsawom no de abankran kane na e 2 season na transport na akosro enti ode bi beto so eba ne sa obi abetoto ne niam so enti ebe affect ye nyina ayam hihie nso se ne ebi nka so third world war ba enti obi wo ho no kra eniema bi a woso ye onye obi so o mecha se bedu baabi no o meka so ene mo me ho do aduane en na nkofo ahyase ho do aduane no mo se ne ntokwa beba de a eche se wiase eniema be ye pasa eno ntina ye bompa ye se enlu ho ba mi se enlu ho enya de bedru ho enya de bedru
great enya de bedru ho for question way to dream but Monday ube year no them in all of this playing do you think the world order should be rewritten? Paul?
No, dear, me my own mandate queen. I was saying, so if you ask them, will be any delay. Now, me, I do my mandate, I bet was out.
Great one, Paul. Meda was Papa. Great one, very sharp, very intelligent guy. Yeah, there was Papa with any insight. Yankupon, I do my mandate, no better was.
Yes, madam.
Great. Paul Conley Boateng, or a security and intelligence analyst, na many DSI and Komoe. When Yankupon had my mandate, we still want to gauge this Russian-Ukraine war because Minimoka says still report air Barnett say the war is intensifying in all angles. Just more shells, artillery shells, bombings, nipa idwani tuto wirem kwayemu esiremu mipomu insuomu Russia honi hi efene say Ukraine hono omi no bia pe bia afa are hu yipa. Was it a Saturday? And I'm a share with na akola bi a ya hihye no ne hu se kuntan se na akola yi kono su wo su just wo hu be bi a ne papa ne maame afa e bi wiase ne kono no na wo hwe be bi a North Korea gina sisi ya North Korea atena sidin ni dwuma bi a di se America and a target into one manufacture a warhead ono a to ni din se ICBU Intercontinental Ballistic Missile. Or 2 years na eduru America ne major city okwasa ekuru no na ubisa ho se nti ehimfa na wiase ekoi ewuranom yesu ye te Ghana ho ye dia ne ye kan ze ndizia o si hey ye dia akwakosi 27 chip compound hey na MPP so aba yenso ye one district one factory one wine. Can you imagine this politics? What is playing at the world stage? Oh, they are not talking about one district. No, one see 27 chip compound. No, what is playing at the global stage is what you call who has the global hegemony. That political preponderance to be able to stage it and say, I want to control S. I want to control this at this time. We are seeing now to hell with Obi Anko baby. Can you imagine? And then the year can once a move. The say 12th century politics here, yeah. Emu mabo. Hey. Hey, I didn't know much. Well, SMP, my guest on this studio, I am Fritz Moses, or a research analyst institute for energy and security. Onosu baby BMU on the global market. All these and more coming up. Channel said, little style massage.